What is up, guys? It is Carly here bringing you day number 4 of my 31 days of horror, and today I'm going to be talking about a South Korean movie known as Witchboard from the year 2004. Now, Witchboard is a ghost story type of movie, and it follows this girl who has just moved to this smaller village, and when she starts school, she starts getting bullied day by day by this other group of girls. Her, along with two of her friends, are getting bullied, so they decide that they have had enough, and they put a curse on these girls. They just call out to just any spirits using a makeshift Ouija board, and they put a curse on them that's going to essentially make these girls die because they're just getting sick of being bullied by them, and their wish is granted, and the girls start to one by one commit suicide. But it turns out that the spirit that they set free is someone who is looking for revenge because of what happened to her while she was alive. So this spirit starts to slowly possess one of the girls who was being bullied, and using her to exact this revenge. So that is kind of the story there. Sorry, I apologize right off the bat. The character names are hard for me to pronounce because this is a Korean movie, and obviously the names are just a little bit odd and hard for me to say, so I'm not really going to say anyone by name. But my thoughts on the movie, I went into it not really knowing anything about it other than it was a ghost story, and that was about it. I didn't really know the whole plot or anything, and I gotta say, I actually really enjoyed this movie for the most part. I thought it had a lot of genuinely creepy moments to it. The way it's shot and the way they film the creepy moments really works and makes them scary. There's especially a scene in a classroom that I really like that really kind of spooked me, if you will, and I like that about it. I actually do like these type of ghost movies where you actually are seeing the spirits as a full-bodied person rather than the paranormal movies where stuff is just floating around the rooms and things like that. I do prefer movies like this, kind of like how The Grudge and The Ring and stuff like that it's always managed to kind of creep me out. I know that some people aren't a big fan, but I do like it, and I think this movie really works with some of those moments. The negatives I do have for a movie like this is the characters are kind of hard for me to tell apart because they are just these plain girls with black hair, and obviously they're all Korean, and it's just hard for me to kind of tell characters apart, and that did make the movie a little bit confusing at times for me, but that's not a major complaint. It's just for following the purpose of following the story, it made it a little bit difficult, and I did have to Google the full summary of the movie just to get a feel for what I just watched afterwards, but that's not a major complaint. I still found the movie to be enjoyable. I felt like the first half I liked a little more than the second half. It was at that point that I kind of got a little bit confused, as I said, but that's not a major problem. I know other people really don't always have that issue, especially if you watch Korean films more than I do, because I'm not too familiar with these movies, so that could just be a me problem. But yeah, in general, I thought the story was pretty creepy. I did like the backstory on the ghost who they set free, who's trying to exact the revenge, because you do get some flashbacks about her life and what actually happened to her, because you learn that she too was just like the girls who are being bullied. She was kind of a weird girl who was also kind of an outcast, and you just learn the sad past of her as well as her mother, and I do like how they go about doing that with the flashbacks because it gives you a little more insight. So yeah, that's another positive. The only thing about the flashbacks as well, that's another thing where they kind of happen, and at first I didn't realize that I was watching a flashback, and that kind of made the plot a little bit confusing for me as well. But once again, that's something that can be fixable. All I had to do was really just kind of look up the story again and get a refresher on what I just watched to kind of piece some things together. But overall, this movie I thought was pretty creepy at times and also well shot. Some of the scenes are very well shot. I also like the concept of how the girls are killing themselves with putting a bag over their head and setting their faces on fire. That's not something that you see or hear of every day, and it is pretty brutal. And I think that the effects, especially with the burn effects, are pretty well done. They're not over the top or anything like that, but I think they're pretty good for what they are. So I did like that as well. Overall, pretty creepy movie, pretty interesting storyline that keeps you engaged. The only complaints I really have is just a few confusing moments, but overall, I really liked it, and I did like the characters that you follow in it. So I gave this movie a 7.5 out of 10. I definitely recommend checking it out if you are into these ghost stories. So yeah, 7.5 out of 10 for Witchboard. Thank you guys for joining me for day number 4 of my 31 days of horror, and I will see you in day number 5.